Hello and welcome to TTV News broadcasted on Tay Ninh radio and television station with some last event in Tay Ninh province. And now we come into details. On March 16, the government office had a nationwide conference to summarize the Prime Minister's 5-year mission of the working group under the chair of Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc at Tay Ninh, Brisbane. Attending the meeting, there were standing vice chairmen of the Provincial People Committee Nguyễn Mạnh Hùng, along with leaders of the provincial department and branches.
After 5 years of operation, up to now, the working group of the Prime Minister has basically completed well the assigned tasks. The percentage of overdue tasks and unsubmitted projects has been pulled down sharply compared to the previous term. The lowest number of documents detailing regulations on delaying promulgation has been reduced ever. The working group also firmly proposed to the government and the Prime Minister to direct and request the ministry and agencies to review, amend and abolish many unnecessary, unreasonable and obstructive regulations causing difficulty for investment and business activities. Many urgent issues in the public opinion were also detected and proposed by the working group to the government and the Prime Minister and urged for timely resolution. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc praised and highly appreciated the performance of the working group, with a fierce spirit, not afraid of conflict, has readily brought positive effects, creating the trust of people and enterprises. The Prime Minister directed that in the coming time, the working group's activity should continue to grow into reality, neither deal with nor abuse their power, both creating spillover and pressure for ministry, agencies and localities to effectively implement the directions and administration of the government and the Prime Minister.
In the morning of March 16, 20 and 21, Tay Ninh Provincial Election Commission had the 4 sections to listen to the report on the progress of the election of deputy to the 15th National Assembly and the People Council at all levels for the 2021 to 2026 term and continue to deliver key tasks in the coming time. Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Ngọc, Deputy Secretary of the Provincial Party Committee, Chairman of the Provincial People Committee, Chairman of the Provincial Election Commissions, attended and directed the meeting.
The Election Commission at all levels have implemented the election preparation on schedule, ensuring that the material facilities, security and order, propaganda are constantly deployed with many forms. The Standing Committee of the Vietnam Federal Front Committee of Tay Ninh Province has received and handed over dossiers of those who have been nominated as candidates for the 15th National Assembly and People's Council at all levels for the 2021-2026 term from the Provincial Election Commission. The Standing Committee of the Vietnam Federal Front Committee of Tay Ninh Province is preparing closely to conduct the second negotiation conference to take place this week. Currently, the People's Committees of the communes have established their own election commission. Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Ngọc directed the implementation of key tasks, in which he noted that the subcommittees, the election commissions of districts, towns and cities, the Vietnam Federal Front Committees at all levels pay attention to well organize the propaganda, well coordinate with the Federal Front Committee to organize the second and the third negotiation conference well, coordinate with the police to closely review the accuracy and update the electoral roll from now to the election day, adhere to Article 30 of the election law regarding the electoral roll, note that voters wish to vote elsewhere, carefully review, comply with the law to ensure voters' interest, promote propaganda so that people understand the meaning of the election, and promote voters' rights and responsibilities for the election. Also, in the morning of March 16, the delegation of the Provincial Party Committee's Propaganda and Training Department, led by Ms. Nguyễn Thị Xuân Hương, head of the department, inspected the propaganda for the election of deputies to 15 National Assembly delegation and the People's Councils at all levels, 2021-2026 term in U Minh Châu District. At the meeting with the Standing Committee of Dư Minh Châu District Party Committee, Ms. Nguyễn Thị Xuân Hương suggested that the localities of Dư Minh Châu District should continue to promote communication and propaganda for everyone to clearly understand their rights and obligations. The information of propaganda should be edited in a short, easy manner to understand to communicate to voters. The localities should pay special attention to the visual propaganda hanging on kinds of banners, slogans and national flags, promoting propaganda on election-related contents on Facebook, Zelo groups of associations and unions. The broadcasting system of communes and townships needs to gather information on election day, time, place, and voting process, propagating the list of candidates, the number and structure of the delegation of the 15 National Assembly, and the People's Councils at all levels for the 2021-2026 term. In 2020, Tay Ninh will continue to implement for emulation movement launched by the central government, including the whole country joint forces in building new style rural areas. Vietnamese enterprises integrate and develop. The whole country join hands for the poor without anyone being left behind. Graduates, civil servants, and public employees emulate to perform the office culture. The movements were implemented at all levels, branches, localities, and units, and were responded positively by the people with many practical activities. Up to now, the whole province has 11 more communes meeting new rural standards, bringing the total number of communes meeting new rural standards to 45 out of 71 communes. Tay Ninh City and Hoa Thành Thảo complete the task of building new style rural area. By the end of 2020, the poverty rate in the province will be below 0.7%. There are no poor households according to central standards. In particular, the emulation movements have become the driving force for businesses to innovate, create, produce, and do business effectively, create more jobs, and increase income for employees. 2021 has been chosen as the year of TayNinhTV set themselves up in business startup. So many activities to support young people starting a business and economic development have been interested in implementing at all levels of the youth union. In Chala Commune, Dư Minh Châu District, from the mobilization of social resources, the Commune Youth Union has awarded a startup capital of 25 million Vietnam dong to one youth with disadvantaged circumstance in the locality so that he can invest in developing the model of breeding cows for reproduction. The Commune Union also awarded an amount of 5 million Vietnam dong to support another youth with a difficult circumstance in the locality to develop a model of backyard chicken raising. These support capital sources will not be charged interest. Each month, they will return 500,000 Vietnam dong to the Commune Youth Union to continue the capital turnover and support for other youth.
Ladies and gentlemen, over the last time, when the whole country read up for the fight against COVID-19, there was still a number of individuals who lack awareness, despite the warning of levels, sectors, and even the provisions of law related to the avoiding medical delocation and isolation. The unconscious actions are considered one of the main causes of epidemic outbreak and risk, making epidemic prevention and control more difficult. If it is said that the consciousness is the most effective vaccine in preventing and controlling COVID-19 epidemics, the consciousness gap of some people is opposed with extremely heavy destructive power. Therefore, it needs to be completely and radically solved.
Remembering that during the last Lunar New Year, an F1 case returned to Tân Châu District from Ho Chi Minh City due to withdrawal medical declaration and quarantine in accordance with the regulations. 34 cases of close contact were recorded as F2. These were on relatives that this F1 case visited and visited. Even after that, the test result of F1 cases was negative, but it was the indifference to the epidemic, the spirit of non-cooperation in the implementation of the medical declaration, and especially the gap of consciousness of the F1 case, which was immediately condemned by public opinion and the online community strongly. Over the past time, people and authorities have well implemented epidemic prevention control. The doctors, the anti-epidemic forces, have been very strenuous, without doubt. But there are some people who make untruthful or false medical declaration. This behavior makes many people very angry and needs to be condemned. The act of evading medical declaration and quarantine is considered as a standard deviation behavior according to the current conception. I completely oppose this irreversible act. If any individual for himself makes false medical declaration and avoids isolation, causing an epidemic outbreak or spread to others, this is both a bad guarantee in terms of general social morality and not complying with the law. It is necessary to take measures and sanctions to punish and set an example for others. The lack of awareness of some people in making medical declaration, avoiding quarantine endanger the safety of society and will ruin our efforts in epidemic prevention and control. According to Law Phan Văn Vĩnh, if any does not report, make false declaration, or give untruthful statements about whether they have traveled to epidemic areas or infected epidemic from another person, they may be punished from 10 to 20 million Vietnam dong. As for avoiding and refusing isolation, according to the regulations of the competent authorities, it may be fined from 15 to 20 million Vietnam dong. As for the criminal, if it is determined that from evading declaration, avoiding isolation to spread the epidemic, that person may be criminally prosecuted for the act of spreading the dangerous epidemic to people. The law provides for a fine of 10 to 200 million Vietnam dong and a prison term of between 1 and 12 years. The fine person is also receive an additional amount in accordance with the law. In the current context of COVID-19 epidemic, the medical declaration is very important, provide effective support for the health sector to manage epidemiological matters, to promptly localize strains and support treatment, and have scenarios to respond to epidemic. In addition, the medical declaration is both the right and the responsibility of each citizen. Please show up with the gap of consciousness by yourself before being punished by the law and condemned by the public. Let's join hands to strictly implement the 5K message in Vietnamese of the Ministry of Health. These are the most effective vaccines to have prevent and push back the COVID-19 epidemic.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today's news. Thank you for joining with us and see you next time.